Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 669, and today's date is May 16th, 2015, and the title of this episode is The Current Economic Collapse News Brief. Now, before I get started, I just want to thank those people who donated to the X22 Report. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, and I am very grateful. Tomorrow, Sunday, I will be posting the interview with James Tracy. We discussed Sandy Hook, and if you're on the X22report.com email alert system, you will get an email letting you know that that interview is posted. If you're on YouTube and you subscribe to the X22 Report Spotlight channel, you will get an email from YouTube. If you're not on either of those, you can just go to YouTube and type in X22 Report Spotlight, or come to the X22report.com site. You will see the interview on the right-hand side. Let's get right into the economic collapse news. Now, we understand that Greece, basically they're broke right now. They don't have the funds. We understand they dipped into the IMF emergency funds to make the last payment. We understand the talks broke down between the ECB, the IMF. They can't come to an agreement because both of these central bank organizations, they want them to push austerity on the people, and this is what the government doesn't want to do. Now, we've seen the government of Greece come up with all different tricks to make the payments. This time, I don't know if it's going to happen. We also understand that they've been working with Russia, and they've been making deals, and we don't know what they've been talking about behind doors, and we're going to have to watch that very carefully. But the IMF is out there saying that Greece will not be able to make the repayment on June 5th, and most likely they will default unless they come to some type of an agreement. Now, we can see that the government has come up with all different ways of making the payment, and I think they're running out of tricks, and I think they're coming down to the wire that they're going to have to make some type of decision if they make an agreement, or they go ahead and say, listen, we're going to default, and we're going to go towards Russia or the BRICS system, because as we know, IMF has been preparing, ECB has been preparing for a default. We understand that the bankers in their closed-door meetings, they've come to an agreement that if this does happen, they're not going to count this as a default, and they will not have to pay out anything on this, on these credit default swaps, derivatives, and everything else. So we can see where this is headed right now, and we're going to have to watch this very, very carefully. I talked about how the illegals are coming into this country. We understand a judge, Andrew S. Hanen, he's basically placed an injunction on the Obama administration and DHS, and of course, Obama and DHS has been basically ignoring the injunction. And now the Obama administration is blaming a technology glitch for why it continued to approve the new amnesty applications in February going forward, because there was a technological glitch and we didn't understand. We couldn't stop it. And right now they're saying, well, we're begging all these illegal immigrants to tear up their 3-year work authorizations, and it's not going well. Well, why would anyone want to tear it up? And can you imagine if we all used the excuse that, oh, well, there was a glitch. I couldn't pay my taxes. Oh, there was a glitch. I didn't understand my car. We ran the red light. I mean, we could see the government, it does not like to play by their own rules. They love breaking the law. They're above it. They like using excuses for almost everything right now. And the judge is coming down hard on the Obama administration and DHS at this time. We understand right now that the U.S. is trying to provoke war in the Pacific, in Eastern Europe, in the Middle East, in Africa, in South America. And we can see they rotate where they're provoking. I mean, we were in Eastern Europe with Russia, with Ukraine. They're continually provoking, and they let that up a little bit, saying, oh, yes, we need to follow the Minsk II agreement while we get things prepared there. So then we're going to shift our efforts over to the Pacific, and we're going to make the Stratly Islands a huge deal at this time. Right now, the U.S., which really has no claim to any of those islands whatsoever, is bringing in the USS Fort Worth near the area of the Stratly Islands. They're also bringing in Seahawk helicopters. as well as reconnaissance drones to patrol the airspace. Pentagon officials are saying they believe an ADIZ declaration is inevitable and that they intend to challenging it. They're going to challenge what China is trying to do there. And of course, China is saying, something, you need to back off right now, because what we're seeing right now is you are provoking us. And this is what the United States does. They move from location to location, provoking each one of these countries. And now they're in the Pacific while they build up and train the troops in Ukraine. And we're seeing more of this. We understand that the U.S. eventually is going to be bringing in ground troops into the Middle East. They're preparing for this, and Biden has been talking to the Iraqi Prime Minister, and it looks like they've come to an agreement, and Washington is going to expedite weapons to the country. The Vice President assured the Prime Minister of continued and expedited U.S. security assistance to confront the Islamic State. A White House statement said on Friday, the weapons include AT-4 shoulder-held rockets to counter vehicle-borne improvised explosive devices, as well as ammunition. And a lot of this is going to go right into the hands of the Islamic State, because that's where they're really placing these weapons. They're dropping them off, saying it's a mistake. And we know that the Islamic State is a proxy army for the United States government, for the UK, for Israel, and the other Arab nations that are in the coalition. We see there's a story out there that U.S. Special Forces have conducted a military operation in eastern Syria, targeting a senior Islamic commander and his wife. He was the money man in charge of the oil. And we can see right now that, again, they're pushing propaganda out there. Think about this for a second. We just had a story in NBC and Seymour Hersh coming out saying, yeah, they did not kill bin Laden. Now, the White House was trying to counter this. They had NBC retract the story. Seymour Hersh is saying, something, I'm not taking back anything I said. And we all understand that bin Laden died back in 2001 of kidney failure. There's a death certificate of his death. And we know for a fact that that person that they got was not bin Laden. And this is why they threw him off the side of the ship, saying, they were just trying to respect his religion. No, they were hiding the evidence because they lied. Period. The end. But the question is, why did they go into Syria? What was the reason? Because we understand the Islamic State is a proxy army for the U.S. And this also tells us that they're bringing in ground troops into Syria, which is a sovereign nation. And we can see that they killed some of the Islamic State fighters, and what they collected was vast amount of intelligence, private accounting, that was seized during the raid. And I think what's happening here is that the Syrian armed forces controlled by Assad was getting very close to this location, and if they captured that area, they would have taken all this intelligence and information and found out for sure, and they would have published it, that the Islamic State was working for the U.S. government, Israel, because the Islamic State fighters, they were airlifted to Israeli medical treatment centers. Why were they airlifted to Iraq or Turkey? Because what we know is they're controlled by Israel, they're controlled by the U.S., Turkey does support them, and it's just very odd that they're airlifted to that area. We also see that the Syrian government did not coordinate this whatsoever with the United States government. And this tells us they were in there for a specific reason. And at the same time all this came out, the Syrian army said that they killed the oil minister in eastern Syria in the area of Deir ez-Zor. The operation was carried out in the militants-controlled Omar oil field. And we're getting all these different stories coming in. And again, we have to think to ourselves, the Obama administration lied to us once before, actually many, many times before. Why should we even believe this story? And they collected this intelligence because they didn't want the Syrian armed forces to get this, because they were headed in that direction. We see Turkey is out there, and they're saying 2 Turkish F-16s has shot down a Syrian aircraft. They're saying it's a helicopter, and Syria is saying no, it was a drone that they had. Now, we understand that the Islamic State, Al-Qaeda, they were created by the United States, by UK, by Israel, and other nations. They're used to convince everyone that there's terrorism. And right now, David Steele, a 20-year Marine Corps intelligence officer and the second highest ranking civilian in the U.S. Marine Corps intelligence, he is a former CIA clandestine service case officer, and this is what he had to say. Most of the terrorists are false flag terrorists or are created by our own security services in the United States. Every single terrorist incident we have had has been a false flag, or has been an informant pushed by the FBI, which we agree with. Because every time the FBI says, oh, we found another person that joined up with the Islamic State, it was the FBI that convinced this person, that supplied everything, and basically convinced them into doing what they wanted them to do. They were patsies, and they always had a handler. We also understand the truth is that there is no Islamic army or terrorist group called Al-Qaeda, and any informed intelligence officer knows this, but there is a propaganda campaign to make the public believe in the presence of an intensified entity representing the devil, only in order to drive TV watchers to accept a unified international leadership for a war against terrorism. The country behind the propaganda is the United States, and this is coming from a former British Foreign Secretary, Robin Cook. And we've been saying this all along. There is no terrorist organization. This is to convince people in each one of these countries, the private Western Central Bank countries, to do things they normally wouldn't do, to push fear into the communities, to convince them that the governments need to protect us against terrorism. And we can see right now, it's always been the U.S. government, central bankers. It's been the UK government, the French government, the Spanish government, the Israeli government. They have been doing this all along. And let me not forget Australia and many other countries. They have all been doing this. Why? Well, they want to control what is going on. They want the people and they want their rights completely taken away from every single person. They want more soldiers on the ground because they know when this collapse comes, they need to control what is going to happen. And this is why they're continually doing this. And they will not stop. They just lie after lie. And if the truth does come out, they tell another lie to cover it up. And this is what we've been seeing all along. Or they blackmail a judge or some senators or a news agency and everything is retracted, or the judge or the senators vote a different way. And we've been seeing this ongoing, and it has not stopped, and it won't. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.